Welcome learners. In this session, we will explore the fascinating world of rural consumer behavior. We aim to understand the distinct patterns, preferences and decision-making processes of consumers living in rural areas, particularly within the Indian context. This is a vital area of study for marketers and researchers alike, given the vastness and unique characteristics of the rural market. By the end of this unit, you should be able to first understand the key cultural, social, personal and psychological factors that influence how rural consumers behave. Second, analyze the different stages involved in the rural buyer decision making process. Third, identify the important role played by opinion leaders and reference groups in rural buying decisions. And finally, examine how lifestyle, income and family structures specifically affect purchasing behavior in rural settings. Let's begin by defining rural consumer behavior. It refers to the buying habits, preferences and decision-making patterns of people residing in rural areas. Unlike their urban counterparts, rural buyers are often shaped by a unique mix of social, cultural and economic factors. Think about the influence of deep-rooted traditions, the weight of community opinions, fluctuating income levels tied often to agriculture, and sometimes limited access to wide range of products and services. Furthermore, factors like seasonal income flows, varying literacy levels, and the significant impact of local influencers or opinion leaders shape their consumption patterns. For marketers, simply knowing what, where, and how much rural consumers buy isn't enough. The real challenge and the most crucial aspect is understanding why they buy. This involves looking into the buyer's black box, the hidden thoughts and feelings driving purchase decisions. Understanding the why is essential for creating effective marketing strategies and building lasting relationships in the rural market. It's crucial to recognize that rural consumers are not a single uniform group. Their buying habits are incredibly diverse, influenced by factors like caste, culture, and local social dynamics. Each village can possess unique customs and beliefs that impact decision making. Moreover, rural India is not static. Over the last couple of decades, significant changes like improved infrastructure, roads, widespread mobile phone penetration, and increased media exposure have begun reshaping how rural consumers think and act. Alongside this, we see the rise of new types of opinion leaders, whose influence also needs careful consideration by marketers. Consumer behavior in rural India is shaped by a complex interplay of factors. We can broadly group these influencers into four main categories, as shown here: cultural, social, personal, and psychological factors. In this lecture, based on our text, we will focus primarily on first two, cultural and social factors, examining how they mold the buying decisions of rural individuals. First, let's look at the cultural factors. Culture is fundamental, shaping an individual's values, belief, likes, and habits from childhood, learned primarily through family and the immediate environment. These shared behavior form the bedrock of rural life. Within culture, we find social customs, which are long-standing community practices. For example, the gesture of seeking forgiveness after accidental foot contact, stemming from the belief God resides in everyone. knowing as Atithi Deva Bhava, the guest is God, reflects deep-seated respect ingrained in tradition. These traditions, passed down through generations, powerfully influence behavior and product acceptance, even if their origins aren't always questioned. Culture also includes subcultures. These are smaller groups sharing values based on common life experiences. A very significant subculture factor in rural India is caste. Despite progress, caste distinctions often persist, influencing social interactions, residential pattern within villages like separate living areas and access to resources. Marketers must be sensitive to these cultural and subcultural nuances. Defining social class in rural India is more complex than in urban areas. Rural occupations often change with seasons, making yearly income hard to track consistently. Many families don't file tax returns, adding another layer of complexity. Therefore, a widely used method for grouping rural consumers is the socio-economic classification or SEC. This system, developed by the Market Research Society of India, classifies rural households into four groups: R1, R2, R3 and R4 based on two key indicators: the education level of chief wage earners and the type of house they live in, like Kacha versus Pakka. Typically, R1 and R2 represent the relatively more affluent consumers, about 19%, while R3 and R4 are considered relatively poorer, about 81%. This classification helps marketers in targeting, research sampling, and tailoring strategies. However, with more families building Pakka houses, this system's reliance on house type is becoming less distinct, leading to efforts to develop newer, unified classification systems. Now, let's turn to social factors. Decision making in rural communities is often a collective process due to relative isolation and close knit relationships. People are strongly influenced by the groups they belong to, known as reference groups. Primarily, primary groups like family, friends, and neighbors exert influence in two main ways: informational, where people adopt products after seeing respected others use them, and normative, where the desires to fit in and gain acceptance drives behavior. Beyond these traditional groups, new institutions and professionals within the villages are also emerging as significant sources of advice and influence. Within different groups, opinion leaders play a critical role. An opinion leader is someone whose advice or example informally influences the actions or attitudes of others. Traditionally, Gram Pradhan or Sarpanch held this position, respected for their knowledge and connections. Villagers sought their advice on various matters, from farming techniques to personal issues. Historically, school teachers also became key influencers. However, the landscape is changing. Today, educated rural youth are emerging as powerful new opinion leaders with greater exposure to media, technology, and urban lifestyles. They understand modern products and brands well. They significantly influence family purchase decisions, especially for durable goods like TVs and motorbikes, while the male head of the family often retains final say on the farming related and the major income affecting purchases. These young individuals often contributing to family income by their early 20s are key decision makers, open to innovation while remaining rooted in community values. Beyond traditional and youth leaders, several professional workers act as crucial reference groups in rural India, trusted for their expertise and community connection. These include Anganwadi workers, focusing on child development, health and nutrition education for families, auxiliary nurses, midwives, ANMs, providing essential maternal and child health care services and advice, self-help groups, primarily women groups focused on saving and microcredit, empowering members economically and socially, agricultural cooperative societies, facilitating access to credit and government agricultural schemes for farmers, non-government organizations, NGOs, implementing development projects across various sectors, often employing local staff who understand community needs intimately. These professionals are vital communication channels and influencers for specific behaviors and product categories. Socially is a hallmark of rural life. People invest significant time interacting with family, friends, and neighbors. These close bonds heavily influence daily life and decisions. Men often gather at the village chopal community meeting place, while women socialize during their daily chores. Neighbors are considered extended family and their opinions are often sought before making purchases. The family structure itself is evolving. While the traditional joint family system is declining due to education and non-farm jobs, many nuclear families still live closely, forming what they called individual joint families, separate households within the same compound. These nuclear units make independent decisions on daily items, but the larger family connection remains strong for major life events and decisions, with elders still holding significant influence, especially regarding traditions and major purchases. Roles and status in rural society are influenced by factors beyond just wealth. Caste continues to play a significant role, conferring respect on individuals from higher caste or traditional roles like priest or the village head, regardless of their income standing. Their consumption choices can influence others. However, status is also increasingly earned. Progressive farmers, those adopting modern techniques, are gaining respect as forward thinking and successful, making them the role models for purchasing decisions related to new products or technology. Finally, a profoundly significant change is the evolving role of rural women. Decades ago, their lives were largely confined to the home, with limited mobility, education, or say in decisions. Today, thanks to increased education, media exposure, TV, radio, mobile phones, and awareness, rural women are more informed, movable, and empowered. They understand family needs, health, and education better. Consequently, their involvement in family decisions, especially purchase decisions, is steadily and significantly increasing. Marketers must recognize and engage with these crucial demographic shifts. Dear learners, in this first part of video lecture of rural consumer behavior and buying process, we have thoroughly discussed on rural consumer behavior and its influencing factors, specifically cultural and social factor. We will continue this session in the next part of this video lecture. Take care and happy learning. Thank you.